We need men talking to men. But there are no male figures talking to 18, 19, 20-year-olds saying, look, life's going to be brutal. Malevolence is waiting for you. Evil is waiting for you. Hard times are waiting for you. And prepare them then. And tell them that the antidote to that is to find meaning now, so that when those times come, you have an iron rod, if you like, to hold on to, that will get you through that storm.
I'm Iman Amrani and I'm a journalist at The Guardian, and this is the second episode in our series on modern masculinity. In the first episode, I went to a Jordan Peterson event in Birmingham to ask people why it was that they were coming to see him speak. When I was there, I met this really interesting guy called Neil, who owns a bunch of barbershops in the north of England. I went to Leeds to continue my conversation with him, and we have listened to what you said about the last video. The music is going to be a lot less intrusive. Neil! Neil! Hello, you alright? I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I've got two. Neil's barbershops are called King Koby, named after his son. All the staff that work there are super interesting, very friendly, and I wanted to get their perspectives on modern masculinity.
The size of your ass.
It's big, isn't it?
I squat, I've not got an ass that big. I know.
I'm not going to be able to stop looking at it now.
Macca won't mind that.
I have chats with people whose hair I cut that I wouldn't have with my mates. I can open up a lot more to people I don't know that well, more than I can with my mates. So like that's the view of a barbershop.
Why do you think that is?
The person whose hair you're cutting don't know you as well as your mates, and you don't really feel that judged, whereas your mates know a little bit more about you and know who you are.
One of the recurring themes in our call out to readers was men telling us that often they find it difficult to find spaces where they can communicate and express themselves openly and honestly. Seems like barbershops might be one of those spaces.
The most rewarding part of my job is when you find that you can tap into something that someone's never spoken about before, like guys that are going through breakups or they're abusing drugs or something like that, and they know they're doing something wrong, but they don't know how to fix it. Loads of guys coming here don't know how to deal with heartbreak, or even how to sort of level up and be a better partner for their missus or fella.
You're going to say be a better man then, weren't you? Stop yourself. It's meaning that sustains people. It's meaning and responsibility that means that when you do lose your job, which don't get me wrong, is catastrophic, it's awful, but it's meaning and purpose that gets you through that and keeps pursuing it.
The less you attach your life to external things, the more you've got to go internal, and the internal things are what give you meaning, definitely. The connection to your children, to your partner, to the greater good is what gives you meaning.
What do you feel like your meaning is? Do you know what you think your meaning is?
I'm definitely on a learning curve. I had bad relationships with women because of the way I thought I should act in a relationship.
And how is that?
Being disloyal was a big one.
You felt like you should be disloyal?
No, I didn't. I feel like no one ever called me out on being disloyal. I feel like if you could go out with a group of friends that were all pulling a fast one on their birds, they'd be like, I managed to do this last week or this, and no one was going, oh, you're in the wrong. We wanted to brag about it because it feeds the ego, and I think that's what we were all doing as young men. We were just feeding the ego. And so when I actually stopped and cut away all the bullshit, like trying to pull girls and spend their money on clothes and whatnot, and just came in and found like a good group of people that really genuinely cared about me, that would be honest with you and say, well, what you're doing is wrong. Like, this is the path you should be walking on. It wasn't in a religious aspect. It was, let's just treat everyone how you want to be treated. And that I don't think that behaviour's encouraged enough, really.
When was the last time, genuinely, you met someone that you were impressed by and went, that's someone who knows who they are. That's someone who's got their shit together. That's someone who is the same person, whether they're in front of their parents or their friends. They know when to say no to the certain things that go on. You don't meet those guys because individualism isn't encouraged or supported or taught. And what we really, really need is we need to teach men to take responsibility for themselves first, and then they can play an active and important role in the collective.
So this idea of identity and individualism for men is really interesting, especially when you think about the economics of growing up. It's harder than ever to fit into that traditional mould of leaving home at 18, getting a mortgage, getting married and starting a family. And lots of people aren't even sure if that's what they want anymore.
I have people in my chair who would probably define as lads. I'm talking to them for half an hour in my chair. They're not lads. They're just a little bit lost. They don't really know themselves. They want to fit in. They want to be normal.
What would you describe as being a lad?
A lad is overcompensating. That's all a lad is.
So bravado.
Yeah, overcompensating. And the moment I hear that or see that from someone, it's just like, it's just seeing past that. Now I know that equals that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I meet a lot of men who, as soon as they're around any other men, they start speaking completely differently. And like watching you today, you've just been the same person in
100%.
In the barbershop. You've been exactly the
100%.
same, no matter who's been in your seat and everything. And it kind of gives the impression of like a sense of like, I guess, peace with yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the exact opposite would be being like this with this group and this with this group, and see that lost sense of self.
While not everyone in the barbershop was as much of a fan of Peterson as Neil was, there were recurring themes that kept making me think about Peterson's book. It feels like Peterson has claimed ownership of this idea of responsibility, which seems like a universal one, but he packages it in a way that makes it very accessible for men who are looking for solutions.
Men need men to teach them how to be men. So the crisis of masculinity, if we're accepting that there is one, and that's debatable, but I believe there is one. Regardless of whether you link that back to the rise of feminism or to the lack of competition in schools, whatever you want to link it back to, it's not deep enough. We don't teach our young children, our young people rather, at all, to look for meaning in their life, or even what meaning is. Is that conversation that are being had, and to adopt responsibility. I think there are some things that are just uniquely masculine. Women, generally speaking, want a man that's got his shit together. They want a man that takes responsibility for himself. They want a man that can say no when it's appropriate to say no. They want a man that can be gentle when it's appropriate to be gentle. They want a man that can be strong and aggressive even when it's appropriate to be strong and aggressive. And there are so many traits that are uniquely, well, not uniquely, women can have these traits too, but that men need, that we're just not teaching our young men at all in any way.
What I find really interesting is all those things that you've listed. I feel like women have been saying that for a while, and Peterson come along and said, make your bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And I've had so many guys, they see me reading a book on the tube or whatever, they come over and they said, Jordan Peterson, like that whole like making your bed in the morning, it really changed my life. And I'm like, dude, your mum didn't tell you to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
what is it about Jordan Peterson saying that is so different and actually gets more of an effect than that being said for time from like teachers, your mum?
Your mum telling you to tidy your room is in case the neighbours come around for tea and she wants to show the house off. Jordan Peterson telling you to clean your room, he goes on and adds the context of that. If you can't govern your immediate surroundings, don't expect to be able to govern anything else in your life. It's naivety. We have so many men that do not have the most basic elements of their life in order. And I included me in this for a long time. And now we live in a culture that we want to go from step 1 to step 6 and miss out steps 1 to 5, you know? So your mum telling you to change the room or your teacher doing it doesn't have the same emphasis as a man saying, no, you do this because it leads to everything else that you're looking for in your life.
What kind of decisions have you made differently in the past 10 years which you think have helped you to have this sense of security that you seem to have?
Yeah. I don't know if there's any like specific decisions that made my life at a crossroads go in one direction or the other, but it was just a decision that never, ever, 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 ever again will I use any part of my past or any part of anything that's occurred to me as an excuse for not being the man that I know full well that I should be. And I think having a commitment to the truth as well has been one of the biggest things that's changed in my life since then.
You mentioned the truth a lot. I can even see it's tattooed just above your eyebrow.
Yeah. And when I'm talking about the truth, I don't just mean don't tell lies, right? That's a level 1 basic thing that you teach your children. When I'm talking about truth, I'm talking about really getting to the bottom of who you are as a person and who we are, right? Find what's true about you. And oftentimes you'll find, as I found, the more I dug into myself, what was true about me was overwhelmingly hideous. I met a girl called Helen who ended up being a real catalyst in my life. We were together for 2 years and then that ended.
How was she a catalyst in your life?
She was the first person that told me I was full of shit, which I needed. I had this belief system here that I believed in, genuinely believed in, the way in which you should live and integrity and courage and all of those things. And then on the other side of that, I had the way that I actually behaved, which didn't represent that belief system in any way. And I'd managed to circumvent that by being relatively popular, having lots of friends, being articulate, and those things hid a multitude of sins. So I'd done all of these things to completely hide the fact that deep down I was completely lost, didn't have a fucking clue who I was or where I was going or what I was doing. Had this belief system and this way of living that I desperately wanted to achieve, but my own weakness wasn't allowing me to achieve it. And at the end of my relationship with Helen, she said, "You're not the man that you think you are. You could be, but you're not. You're full of shit. I need to go away and change it." And it really hurt. And I was really resistant to her for like a day or two. And then I sort of transcended myself and went inside and said, yeah, she's right. She's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. She was the catalyst for me beginning this sort of like last 10-year journey that I've been on, where I've just been trying to sort myself out and get my act together and find meaning and find responsibility and find a way to actually start living the things that I claim.
It's interesting that it was a woman.
Yeah, very interesting.
Did you cheat on her?
Yeah, I did. And obviously, I mean, I haven't seen Helen for 15 years, but even now, I have nothing but respect for her. Because if it wasn't for her in that conversation in her apartment in 2006, whenever it was, I'd probably be in a very different place to where I am now.
I really appreciated the conversations I had with Neil and the other guys in the barbershop. I felt like they were honest, candid, and very respectful. And I think that's a big part of what I'm trying to get at with this series. Dialogue is so important, be that between men in barbershops or between a man and a woman across a table. It's only through speaking to each other and really listening that we're going to come up with solutions to the big questions about things like modern masculinity in 2019. One of the recurring themes that you have asked us to look at is that of role models for men, and we will be addressing that later on in the series. But our next episode will focus on a few familiar faces.
There's always a stigma about men can't be vulnerable and men can't have emotions or men can't cry.
When I see my friends, especially when they're approaching women and they turn on this certain amount of bravado, it's like, that isn't you.
When we're talking about role models for kids, we have to be careful that in 40 years' time you're not telling them, no, that's wrong now.
Like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with everything we're doing in the series on modern masculinity.
When I think of masculine, I think of power. But if you mean man, because I'm powerful as a man in my way.